Good morning. I'd like to thank Chairwoman Maloney for holding today's joint hearing on the SolarWinds breach and the related malicious cyber campaign. Just over 2 months ago, we learned that a state actor, likely Russia, had engaged in a large-scale cyber campaign, infiltrating government and private sector networks and burrowing inside them. By the time FireEye voluntarily shared information about the breach of its network, the Russian actors had established a presence on victims' network undetected for nearly a year. That is hardly comforting. While the campaign is notable for its patience, persistence, scope, and scale, the methods and tools used, though sophisticated, are not entirely new. NotPetya, a 2017 destructive supply chain attack with a global impact, involved Russian actors compromising Ukrainian tax preparation software to access victims' network. That same year, security researchers published their findings regarding an attack vector using forward camel tokens. Nonetheless, the federal government and the private sector were caught flat-footed. I do not mean to diminish the complexity of the attack or to suggest we could have prevented it, but I want to make the point that our collective failure to make cybersecurity a central component of our national security and invest in it accordingly contributed to the success of the campaign and the difficulty we face in understanding its impact. In short, past warnings of what could come failed to trigger a meaningful shift in our approach to security. My goal in our joint investigation is to move beyond admiring the complexities of this campaign and the challenges associated with stopping one like it and start charting a path forward. In the 15 years I've served on the Homeland Security Committee, one thing has become clear. We can't become so consumed by preventing the last attack that we are blind to the threats of the future. Instead, we must identify systematic opportunities to improve our ability to prevent, defend against, mitigate, and raise the cost of all malicious cyber activity. Toward that end, I hope to identify a combination of next-term fixes and longer-term structural solutions that will improve our ability to better understand the adversary, defend our networks, and identify attacks more quickly. None of the witnesses here today can have a conversation with me or with the Cybersecurity and Infrastructure Security Agency about malicious activity occurring on an agency network because of restrictions agency add in their contracts. That unnecessarily complicates our oversight work, limits CISA's situational awareness, and slows recovery. I believe that is a problem we can fix quickly. In recent days, I have been encouraged to learn of growing interest in enacting a cyber incident reporting law. Former chairman of the Cybersecurity Subcommittee, Cedric Richmond, authored an amendment included in the House-passed National Defense Authorization Act that would have established a cyber incident notification requirement. Unfortunately, we were unable to reach agreement with our Senate counterparts, but we look forward to trying again this year and hope we can enact cyber incident notification legislation in the short order. In the longer term, we must figure out how to make security a value proposition, not only for policymakers, but for investors and the private sector who are focused on earnings. We must address persistent challenges in threat information sharing and find more strategic ways to effectively leverage the unique capabilities of the government and the private sector in our shared goals of better security. In that vein, it may be time to reassess the obligation of large, highly resourced companies with outside footprints in our economy, in our government, and evaluate whether more should be expected of them. And we need to find ways to change behavior in the private sector, particularly those in government supply chain, so executives value security as much as earnings statement and fast product rollout. I look forward to candid conversations about these issues today. Before I close, I want to thank our witnesses for being here today. Since December, I've been impressed by the degree of transparency in their conversations with us. It is important to have a complete record of what happened and how, so we can have a candid conversation about what needs to change. With that, I yield back the balance of my time.